Good evening and welcome to Metro Focus. I'm Jenna Flanagan. New York City Council member Jimmy Van Bramer is taking it up a notch and is making a run for Queensborough president. Van Bramer shared his intentions for the next year's race in a tweet, but plans to make his official announcement on May 5th. The Queens native was a strong opponent of Amazon's Long Island City headquarters, and he wants Borough Hall to be, quote, less friendly to real estate developers. Van Bramer would also be the first openly gay borough president, and he's currently running unopposed. And it's our pleasure to welcome him back to Metro Focus for a preview of his announcement. Welcome back to the program, Councilman Van Bramer.
Thanks for having me.
So, what is behind this decision to leave City Hall and move it back to Queens?
Well, I love public service. I love working for people. I love fighting for the constituents that I currently represent. Feel like we've done a good job of being an activist council member, fighting for the things that I believe in, talking about our Queens values, and not being afraid to take on really big fights and really powerful opponents. But I've demonstrated that I can not only take on really powerful people and really powerful interests, but I can win. And I think that's what we want and need in a borough president, that's thinking about the future of Queens and what it's going to look like and how it's going to serve to be this beacon of hope into the future.
Well, everything you said sort of alludes to the fight over Amazon and having their H2 headquarters in Queens, in Long Island City specifically. And my question would be, there was a lot of blowback from people who were saying, you know, there was supposed to be affordable housing including in that development, and now that's gone. There was supposed to be 25,000 new jobs that were supposed to be included in that project, and now that's gone. There was supposed to be job training for people, and now that's gone. So how do you address the criticism that a lot of people are saying that there was more harm than good done?
Well, first I would say there's a lot of misinformation. The truth is that there was a lot more affordable housing planned than what was going to happen at that site. And all of that went away when the governor and the mayor secretly agreed and colluded with Amazon to put their headquarters there. Look, no one has ever said that we're not in favor of jobs or development that's good for Queens. What we are opposed to, though, are secret deals made in back rooms that exclude the public in any kind of meaningful process. And huge multi-billion-dollar giveaways to the richest men in the world aren't good public policy. And we as a city, and let's talk about Queens here, the future of Queens is at stake here. We can't be bullied by a trillion-dollar corporation that says, we're coming here, but only on our terms. You can't question us. You can't doubt any of the numbers that we're talking about. You can't even talk about our business practices in ways that we don't approve of. If you do, we'll cut and run. This isn't something that should be acceptable, and you shouldn't roll over. Our job is to ask tough questions. And the truth is that Queens is at a record level of employment right now. But what the crisis is, the real crisis, is affordability. Amazon wasn't going to help that crisis. Amazon was going to make that crisis worse. That's what's happened in Seattle and other places where they've been. That's what was going to happen here. Now, the truth is, we'll have more investment. We'll get jobs. But we have to be at the table. They can't just be on the terms of $1 billion owner, the richest man in the world. He doesn't set all of the terms to all of these things. He can't.
So then the staying and talking and renegotiation would have been the ideal outcome for you?
They had every opportunity to continue to talk and to continue to agree to change their ways. They were at the table with organized labor and unions the day before they pulled out. They were negotiating. But they chose, for whatever reason, from Jeff Bezos on down, to just cut and run. Again, that's on them.
Well, let's talk about your platform in running for Queensborough president. What is it that you would bring that would be new and different to the borough?
Well, first of all, an activist fighting spirit and an energy, I think, that is lacking and that we need. So when we talk again about Queens being the borough of immigrants, we know that immigrants, particularly the undocumented, are under assault in Queens. And I think the borough president of Queens has got to be a leader in those efforts. So when Trump was separating children from their families last summer, I got a notification at 11:30 at night that children from families that they've been separated from were arriving at LaGuardia Airport, and people were mobilizing, and would I go out there? And I got in my car and I rushed out there and stayed till 3:30 in the morning to stand with activists and to stand with immigrants. That's the kind of leader that we want. There isn't a legislative power to the borough presidency, but there is a real power of the bully pulpit, right? To actually speak with clarity and forcefully about the things that we believe and we want to stand up for. Obviously, immigrants are one of those. We've also got to make sure that we're increasing the franchise for all of those who are underserved and underpowered. The LGBT community, people in public housing, all of those, the trans community. Criminal justice reform is something that is being talked about an awful lot now. Decriminalization for sex workers, incredibly important. We have a large trans community in Queens, a trans Latina community in Jackson Heights and Elmhurst specifically, Corona. Those communities need to be absolutely protected. And look, libraries and the arts are kind of what I do for a living.
Well, yes, I was going to say we are very familiar with your work with the libraries. I do want to ask you, though, specifically, you had recently written a letter to Mayor de Blasio asking him to use eminent domain to acquire private lots of land in Long Island City to build schools. I just want you to talk a little bit about the need for more school buildings in a city where we've seen scaling back and sharing with charter schools, et cetera.
So this is the perfect example, yet again, of why Amazon was a bad deal. The area where Amazon HQ2 was going to be called for 2 new schools to come in. When that was shelved because of Amazon, 1 school was removed from the deal. Amazon was only going to produce 1 school, whereas we were going to produce 2 before that. We have a crisis in Western Queens. Districts 30 and 24 are the 2 most overcrowded school districts in the city. We have so many more people coming. This mayor has talked about affordable housing and is a friend to many, many in the development community. But when it comes to building schools, we need to absolutely make sure that we're exercising every power that we have in the city of New York. And we desperately need new schools. We desperately need one in Court Square in particular. And if we can't find property owners who are willing to sell at reasonable prices, then the city should absolutely consider using eminent domain. It's been used before to build libraries and other important public goods, public civic infrastructure. That's what eminent domain is there for.
You're going to be announcing on May 5th for a race that doesn't really get underway. We don't vote until 2021. Why so early?
Well, in politics and in life, it's never too early to organize. And in particular with politics, obviously you need to raise money, and we want to focus on grassroots fundraising. We're not taking money from developers or corporate PACs or anything like that. So small dollar contributions matter, which means it's early to tell people what you want, what you're looking for, and how they can help. We expect the race to be in 2021. I've endorsed Tiffany Caban for district attorney, so we expect her to win in June, and I expect to be a candidate in 2021. Always start early. That's what we're doing. And that's why we're announcing on May 5th.
All right, well, we'll definitely be looking forward to following your campaign and your journey towards the Borough Harlem, Queens. Thank you so much.
Thank you.